The Lumix S1II is not a perfect camera. I hate to break it to you, but this thing does have some flaws, pretty serious ones, that you're gonna wanna consider before dropping $3,000 on it. Panasonic users aren't nearly as bloodthirsty as Sony fanboys, so I expect the comment section to be a little bit more civilized in this video. For each problem that I have with this camera, I'm gonna name something that I do like about it, and then you can decide whether those criticisms outweigh the pros. The cons outweigh the you know what I mean. I have 3 big cons for you to consider, and the first is gonna hit you right out of the box. That's the camera's design. I know this is highly subjective, but just hear me out. I'm not even gonna say that I think it looks ugly, even though I do, because objectively speaking, having all of these dials and switches and options is great. With all these buttons on the outside of the camera, you can change your shooting mode, your photo drive mode, your presets mode, your focus mode, ISO, white balance, exposure. You can lock everything and hit record with 3 different buttons. All of this is amazing, but it makes the learning curve with this camera a lot higher than if you're jumping into Canon or Sony. When you get into the camera, the menu systems have the same issue, except they're even more difficult to navigate. I look at a lot of camera menu systems, and this one is easily the least intuitive and has the most settings of anyone I've ever seen. Bottom line, it's not very beginner friendly, and sometimes it takes a while to navigate through all of the different settings and find the one that you're looking for. The pro side of this is that the camera is kind of like a jailbroken phone. It has all the features. Endless recording options, including open gate, dozens of autofocus settings, and all the pro monitoring tools you could ever want, including frame guides, focus peaking, and false color. Basically, this is an incredible tool, but all of those features come at the expense of aesthetics and ease of use. Speaking of incredible tools, there is no better single place to source all of the creative assets that you need for your videos than from today's video sponsor, Artlist. Artlist has just introduced some amazing new upgrades to their AI tools. The new VoiceOver V2 sounds more realistic than ever, with even more languages supported and special effects that can be applied at the click of a button. You can even upload a recording of your own performance and have the AI copy your delivery, or clone your own voice for text-to-speech generation. The AI image and video tools have received an update as well, with Nano Banana and VO3. This AI can generate cinema quality videos with built-in audio, making filmmaking easier and more limitless than ever. You can generate photos as a starting point for the video or create something directly from a text prompt. VO3 has absolutely blown me away. It produces better results and works way faster than previous models. I have a link down below that's going to give you 2 free months added onto any of their annual subscriptions, so be sure to take advantage of that if you're interested. Thank you, Artlist, for sponsoring this video. Now let's talk about another downside to the Lumix S1II. Personally, I am not a big fan of the color science of this camera. Color science is a weird element to video cameras that is somewhat independent of resolution and even dynamic range. It just relates to how the camera's sensor sees and stores color. When compared to my Canon R6 Mark II, you can tell that the Lumix S1II is very neutral, but it leans a little bit green. Both clips are shot in their Canon's log and graded with a super basic conversion, so we're kind of looking at shots that are as close as possible to being straight out of the camera. The Lumix looks noticeably flatter, and I prefer the color out of the Canon, although in this shot it may lean a little too saturated in those yellows. So what does this mean? Well, it all depends on your use case and your personal preference. The flatter image from the Lumix is better for cinematic color grading, but it requires more work to get it to look the way you want. If you want to do less grading to get a more pleasing image, then this could be a big downside for you. On the bright side, what the camera lacks in color science, it absolutely makes up for in all of its different shooting modes and in one other area. Looking at this list may be a little bit overwhelming or a lot overwhelming, but these are all of the different capture modes available to you with the S1II. From the simple 4K 24 f2.2 10-bit long GOP that most people will be using, all the way up to the open gate 6K 30 frames per second or 4K 120, you'll be hard pressed to find a shooting mode that doesn't come equipped on this camera. I mean, aside from like 8K, because of course this thing doesn't shoot 8K, but most people aren't filming in 8K to begin with, and if you are, then you're well beyond the need of this camera. And now I'm rambling. The S1 Mark II also performed very well in my super unscientific rolling shutter test, so if you're doing any sort of like documentary filmmaking where you're going to be doing handheld shots and whipping the camera back and forth, you're not going to have to deal with a lot of jello. This is going to perform pretty well for you. What will be a problem for pretty much any shooter is this camera's autofocus. And what's interesting is the problem doesn't apply to the more difficult autofocus to master, which is like the face and eye detection. The problem is all around object tracking. With my Canon R6 Mark II, I'll typically just leave the thing on face and eye detection, and then if I want to focus on something else, like my jacket back there, I'll just tap it and now it's tracking my jacket. With the S1 Mark II, it doesn't really function this way. If you tap an area in the frame, it'll bring that into focus, but it's spot autofocus, not tracking. If you want to track an object, you have to go into an entirely different focus setting. And this is an absolute disaster. Even with easy, high contrast subjects, the camera's focus drifts all over the place and it's entirely unreliable, which really sucks. I'm hopeful that one day Panasonic's gonna release a firmware update that patches this and makes it usable, but as of right now, it's pretty hard to recommend a camera that has such a fatal flaw. If the autofocus problem wouldn't affect your style of shooting, you don't mind doing more color grading, and you prefer customization and features over the ease of use, then the Lumix S1II is hands down the best camera on the market right now. However, if you're already bought into another ecosystem like Sony or Canon, I want to caution you. Before you switch to Lumix, consider this. Now that the S1II is out and it's receiving all of this praise for its incredible features, all other camera manufacturers like Canon and Sony are going to have to raise the bar of their new releases to this level if they want to compete. So personally, before selling all of my Canon lenses and my Canon bodies and going all in on Lumix, I'm gonna wait and see how Canon responds, and I would recommend you do the same. That said, if you want to see my review of a more beginner-friendly camera from Lumix, you should check out this video over here where I review the S9. It might be right up your alley.